Saludos familia, les habla Jesús, su administrador del grupo Todo sobre Lucha Libre. Y hoy es una nueva entrevista del día. Tenemos al luchador boricua Panther Rodriguez. Hello Panther, how you doing?
What's going on? What's going on?
Everything okay so far? Well, Mr. Panther, what was your motivation to become a wrestler? Who or what helps you to become a wrestler? Why do you want to become a wrestler?
Wow. Well, there's so many parts to that answer. When I was a kid, my mother used to watch wrestling with me all the time. I used to watch it with her. She was watching the old NWA and, back when Carlito Colon and Hercules Ayala, that era, when they was the NWA World Wrestling Council. I was watching wrestling from way back, and my dad actually used to take me to Madison Square Garden. But even before that, what's in between that, the answer I can honestly give, the answer I can honestly give you, in junior high school, I wound up meeting a guy whose father happened to have been a professional wrestler, has a wrestling gym 3 blocks down from the junior high school I attended. I thought it was, a little BS at first, but turned out it was a real school. And, from there I branched out training in Brooklyn and stuff because New York City was known for a lot of wrestling gyms that produced legends. A lot of people don't know in New York City, Antonino Rocca and Miguel Perez from Puerto Rico, they had a gym in Manhattan, I believe. And Miguel Perez can't get any bigger than that. And a lot of guys came from that school. My trainer came from that school. Johnny Rods. Oh, so much talent. Pedro Morales. Oh, my goodness gracious. But what got me into wrestling also was just the fact that I used to see people, the reaction from the people, like looking at these guys like they're superheroes and like they put all their attention on them. And their whole attitude changes. And I'm looking around. Now, I'm a little kid at the time, and I'm thinking I'm already starting to, learn. And I'm looking around and look at the reaction these dudes is getting from what they're doing. And I remember the last live match I've ever been to in Madison Square Garden. I believe Andre the Giant was tag teaming with Paul Orndorff against Piper and Orton Jr. And great match for the record. And I knew right there and then I just wanted to do it. I had to. I don't care in front of, what the crowd is like. I just have to be in there, and plus my great uncles used to wrestle in Puerto Rico, and one of them wrestled here in the States too, though. But I just love it. Everything, the attention, the physicality, the brotherhood, seeing guys out there with the same love you got, doing what you do, the ring, a lot of people don't realize is like a canvas, and the wrestlers are the paintbrushes. We're the artists that's putting the picture on the wall for you guys to enjoy. And it ain't easy. I could tell you so many injuries I got, and I just love it. I just can't explain how I got into it. I just do, and it was a long time ago. But the guy that trained me, Bobby Bold Eagle, he was one of the first guys, and I can't say the first, but he was one of the first to go to the Middle East and wrestle. I have it on my page. Look at my wrestling page, like the pick in the back. You know what I'm saying? You got Luthez, you got Ralphus, Calito, the Tonga Kid, and there was another guy there, but he wasn't in the picture. Carl Gott. Okay. Carl Gott, Luthez, a shooter. I mean, these guys, they're the real deal. And my trainer got to work out with them for months on end. And I'm a kid soaking all this up and learning stuff that I don't know if I should have been learning it at that age, to be honest, because what a lot of people don't know, I didn't start off as Panther Rodriguez. I didn't start off like that. I had so many different names, and then one day my trainer decides he wanted to wrestle me because he had the Black Panther mask, he had the cape to the side, he had the cup, he had everything to the side, put in the corner. He goes, "Come in, Julio, come on." Well, my name is Cano. A lot of my friends call me Canito too, but that's another, And here I am. I'm thinking we're gonna have a wrestling match, but it wasn't a wrestling match. No fue. It was a shoot match. It was a match. I mean, fue de verdad, un lucha de verdad. It was a real. It was just real. He didn't punch me. He just used forearms and holds, all kinds of stuff. And I'm a little kid. I'm thinking I'm like 15 years old, barely 16. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And the last thing I remember was, I had little things here and there, and I was all messed up, and he actually came, brought it to me right in the middle. He says, "Here, this is yours." And you earned the name Panther. So I was wrestling as Black Panther for a while. And then after a while, I wound up losing the mask. I had a loser mask match and lost the mask, came back, put the mask on. And then I didn't put the mask no more. But then after a while, I just started wrestling just Panther. It was just Panther. Then a promoter, let me tell you, I got Panther Rodriguez, a promoter, basically booked me according to the name he saw on my Facebook page. Facebook page said Panther Rodriguez. So he was like, all right, Panther Rodriguez. I'm looking, I was like, oh, shoot. But then, you know what? I didn't care because it's something I didn't mind because, you got so many wrestlers I looked up to, like Raging Bull and Manny Fernandez. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Pedro Morales, Al Perez, oh man, Chris Adams, I could say so many names. Chicky Star, because believe it or not, I used to like watching Chicky Star. He was badass.
Yeah. Okay,
Chicky,
how many years have you been a wrestler?
I never met Chicky Star. The only Latino wrestler, and God bless his soul, the only Latino wrestler from that era that I've met, one time was in New York at the State Athletic Commission, was Jack Veneno.
Okay, the Dominican wrestlers.
But él era Dominicano, I know. But Puerto Rican wrestlers, let me see. Who can I say? I mean, the ones now like Homicide, I know him because I knew him from Brooklyn. But as far as old school de los tiempos viejos, let me see. Who have I? No, I don't think I've met any. No, wait. There was a Puerto Rican wrestler. Hold on a second. He retired many years ago. His name was Bronco.
Oh, okay, but the Bronco was Dominican too.
I don't know if he's Dominican or no. There is a Dominican version. It's a guy wrestling at Bronco Internacional.
No, but the Bronco from the come here to wrestle to Puerto Rico. He was from Santo Domingo too.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But see, mind you, I was a little kid. Bronco's old school.
Yeah, because there's a Bronco Internacional, but the Bronco #1, Bronco #2. I think there's 3-4 Broncos in Santo Domingo.
Damn, diantre, qué jodienda.
Sí.
But, Bronco Internacional, he's a great guy. I love him to death, man. And for his age, I'm going to tell you right now, he is in phenomenal shape. I mean, when he tells people how old he is, I mean, people look at him like this. He's like, and he's older than me. But, but like I was saying, though, so the last match when I saw Andre the Giant, my dad had ringside seats. One thing that showed me was, and I wanted to meet, believe it or not, and he was a Puerto Rican wrestler at the time, and a lot of people didn't realize, and I met him, was Frank Williams.
Mm.
Yes, sir. And he was boricua. I'm going to tell you that right now. He might have played como fue italiano or whatever.
Mhm.
No. He's Puerto Rican. I met him. I met him in New York City. I trained with him a little bit. He kicked my ass on some occasions, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, Frank Williams is probably the closest guy I know to meeting a Puerto Rican wrestler. You know, that wrestled in the high level that he did with WWF at that time, anyway. But Frank Williams is the only one I know. Now, you know, you had to sometimes getting hit in the head a lot. My memory just jogs. You just gotta refresh my memory sometimes.
It doesn't matter. Panther, how many years have you been a wrestler so far?
Let's see. Good Lord.
So
Jeez.
many?
Oh my gosh. Now, I'm gonna say this to be fair. I'm gonna say this. If I took all the years from when I first became professional, getting that license in 18, whatever the case is, if I took all those years together, because, you know, I took some time off because I had injuries, you know, broken legs, all kinds of stuff, fractured collarbones, and oh my goodness, a lot of stuff up here. If I took all those years together, I would say close to 25, around there.
Okay.
If I took all the years and put it together, like
Okay.
condensing them together, you know, but it's a little bit more than that. But I have to take some years off because of healing and other personal issues, but mostly healing. Because I've been through some really wild matches, man. Oh Lord have mercy.
Panther, I want to ask you something. You've been following the lucha libre here in Puerto Rico from the 80s, the 90s. Have you been watching those matches?
I've been watching. Let me tell you something. I remember the Headhunters when they were on Calito Colon's company, and they were going under their real names before Victor. I think it was Jovica or Victor Quiñones, excuse me, got a hold of them because they looked like Abdullah the Butcher. So, you know, of course, and I know the Headhunters personally. They're from the Bronx originally. Headhunters are great friends of mine, Victor and Manny. I love them to death. And I got to say this. I've been watching Carito Colon for a long time. I remember a match he had. It was, and I know he booked it. That's why I say he had it, because he was also a booker at the time. Who was the main event? Oh, Miguelito Perez against Kareem Muhammad from the Zambui Express. And it was in a stadium in Mayagüez.
Okay.
I remember that. It was years ago. Oh, man.
What I would like to know is you watch you watch some wrestling companies right now in Puerto Rico and you see a lot of empty seats compared with the 80s and the 90s where you see a lot of people enjoying wrestling here in Puerto Rico. On your opinion, what do you think that is the problem with wrestling in Puerto Rico and maybe around the world? But let's talk about Puerto Rico. What do you think is the problem that caused that a lot of people didn't go to to see the matches live?
Well, first, I'm going to say, God bless Puerto Rico. Dios la bendiga la isla. That's first. Okay. But to answer your question, I would have to say, now let's just talk about this. You got World Wrestling Council, you got IWA, you got World Wrestling League, you got PRWA, and I think like one or two more. I can't remember their names.
No problem.
I got to tell you this. When it comes to promoting, first of all, COVID-19 messed a lot of things up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. But if they could get people, but it's advertising, you got to produce wrestling. Listen, when I was a kid, Puerto Rico wrestling, and this is when I was coming up in training. I wasn't even old enough to get in the ring because I wasn't of age. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you that in a minute. But when I was a kid, wrestling in Puerto Rico was like almost like watching wrestling in Japan. It was that same feeling. You knew you was going to see some kick-ass wrestling. You knew you was going to see wrestling. Different from the United States, but similar like Japan almost. And to me, that was amazing because I'm like, man, both my parents are Puerto Rican. My mother's from Bayamon. You know, my dad's from Mayagüez. I was born and raised in New York City, the South Bronx. And I got family in Dorado, Tabaja, and all that. And I got to tell you, man, Puerto Rico wrestling, it's also how they're presenting their product, you know. And I'm not no big shot or anything by any means, but if they want to draw more people, they got to get to the people. You can't expect to put a commercial on TV or, you know, put up a bunch of posters or even selling DVDs, because everybody right now can just go on YouTube and watch a match or go online without having to buy a DVD. So nowadays, they got to figure out how else to make money. You can't rely on just doing studio tapings all the time. You're in a studio doing TV tapings, okay, that's fine and dandy. But you can also the type of matches you're having. You want people to be drawn in to what you're doing to the point where they want to be like, I want to see that guy kick his ass the next time I come back and watch this. Or I'll buy a ticket to see him wrestle him. Something like that. Their advertising needs to get a little better, to be honest. They need to think. It's called professional wrestling for a reason. You know, so you got to make sure that, you know, the advertising behind the matches and behind the company as a whole matches your vision for what you want your company to be. And I've seen a couple of stuff in Puerto Rico. Like when I was watching World Wrestling League, I liked that. The name itself just drew me in. I was like, World Wrestling League, it had me thinking about some Japanese wrestling. And they draw a good crowd, but also another thing too, because of WWE and now AEW, you know, all these independent, smaller companies are going to want to open up and try to cut everybody's throat. Puerto Rico has way too many companies. That island, all that side should not have that many companies. I understand you want to give the Puerto Rican people a variety of wrestling to watch, besides WWE, besides all that other stuff, you know, and Mexican wrestling, because I know they air that too. But you wanna keep it at least no more than 3. Like if it be just World Wrestling Council, World Wrestling League, and let's say IWA, that's it. Puerto Rico don't need no more than that. Let those other wrestling companies be like developmentals or some place where a luchador can learn and perfect his craft. So then now somebody from IWA or World Wrestling League or somebody from World Wrestling Council would be like, you know, I want that guy. Make it 3 big companies. And you know what? There'd be enough money to go around for everybody if they did it right.
In my opinion, I think that there's a problem, and the problem is the repetitive matches. For example, they take 2 wrestlers and they fight over and over and over, and the people get tired. I mean, I don't want to see the same 2 wrestlers in a cage, in a hardcore match, in false count anywhere. No, I want to see more wrestlers.
Mira, discúlpame. Hear me out here. I can see the solution to that. It's a lot of cheap promoters. Son macetas. And I'm going to tell you, seriously. They don't want to hire outside talent, whether you're from the Dominican Republic, whether you're from Florida, or whatever part of the United States. They're going to only deal with their local guys, and they're going to be like, well, we don't got too many good wrestlers here. So come on. Suponiendo, you got 10 wrestlers in the back. Out of those 10 wrestlers, you got to pick one guy out of those 10 that you think is good enough to have that kind of match.
Mm-hmm.
out of those 10, maybe 2 are. So now you got 8 guys that you don't want for that match and only 2. So you pick from that 2, boom. So it's the booker. The booker don't want to book great talent and pay for it. They don't want to do that. And if they did do that, believe it or not, they would make money because, suponiendo, if I was to go to Puerto Rico, which God bless, I wish, I would. Wrestling in Puerto Rico is like my dream. That would be my WrestleMania moment because that is my roots. That's Puerto Rico. I mean, come on. Need I say more? You know, but I say this. If they was to just, and it's crazy though. I wish somehow all those other promoters like PRWA. There's another one called, I think, CW something. No me acuerdo el nombre.
CWA, RCW, JWP.
Quite a bit. Yeah, man. And there's, so if they was to all get together, me personally, I would get together with all of them, let them get together with Carlito, IWA guys, and let them get together with World Wrestling League and sell their share to all of them. And get the good wrestlers from all those companies and spread them out through IWA, through some for World Wrestling Council, and some for World Wrestling League. And I guarantee there would be money. These guys in Puerto Rico would have no choice but to keep training and to keep training hard. Because obviously, if they didn't pick you, it's because there's a reason. You're not doing something right. But Puerto Rico has, if they was to do that, they would make some good money, man. They just don't want to hire outside talent too much no more. Carlos Colon, he does. But he doesn't hire, too much outside talent unless he doesn't really know you or you're like a name or something. And then you got IWA. I don't know who booked for them. And I don't know who deals with them either, but you don't see too many outside talent from World Wrestling Council. Most of the guys there, not World Wrestling Council, perdón, World Wrestling League. World Wrestling League mostly uses talent from Puerto Rico. They don't really use too many outside talent. And some of my wrestlers, and I don't watch female wrestling too much, unless if you're in Japan or Mexico. But there's some Puerto Rican female wrestlers that can kick some ass. And I've seen in some matches that it's sad, but it makes a lot of the men wrestlers, the luchadores, it puts them to shame. Some of these females are better than them. I ain't lying. Like, I was watching a match the other day. It was a hardcore match. Who was it? Roxy Tirado. Woo! I was like, damn. Then you had, what was another, what's her name? Nancy. This girl, that she had the face painted right here. Yeah, she's really good. I like her. Then you got La Rosa Negra.
Rosa Negra.
Yeah, man, she is bad.
Okay, but in my opinion, I don't know if they bring somebody from Mexico, from Japan.
Oh, and Vanilla is another one I like.
But what I don't like is that people like you that are Boricuas, why they can bring people like you here to have a match? There are a lot that I have been interviewing a lot of Boricua wrestlers, and they don't give any chance here in Puerto Rico. Why is that? I don't understand that.
You know what? I have my theory. I think I know what's going on with that. I'm not too sure. It could be racism because, you got to understand something. Even and let's put wrestling to the side for a second. In Puerto Rico, racism exists. You had a lot of like light-skinned Puerto Ricans that was being racist against the negrito Puerto Ricans, which ain't right though because we're all together. We all got Taino, we all got Africano, we all got Espanol, whatever. But maybe some not as much, but we all do. And in wrestling, my guess is they want Puerto Ricans actually from Puerto Rico as opposed to Puerto Ricans from, let's say, Like me, I'm from the South Bronx, New York City. You know, my parents are from Puerto Rico and whatever, but I say I may not have been born in Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico was born in me because that's all my blood is. You know, yeah, I might be American because of the La Tierra, that, you know, where I was born at, but
Yeah.
But my blood is Puerto Rican. How can that's their problem? They don't want to do that, so they just want the ones that were born in Puerto Rico. But me, in my outfits, I represent Puerto Rico big time. I always have the flag, and instead of a star, I have like a Taino symbol. I think it's of the sun or something. I start beautiful, man, beautiful. But I don't know. You know, a lot of these bookers, they don't want to spend the money because think about it. You got to fly somebody in, and that costs round trip. Even in your cheapest airline, round trip is going to run you a couple $100 easy. Florida to Puerto Rico's cheaper, but you know, if you got guys from, let's say, New York City or California or Texas, or they're not going to wind up wasting $500-600 round trip, and then you got to put them in a hotel, and then you got to pay them to wrestle. So
And the food and all that.
Oh, everything. Me, I ain't got to worry about it. I got family all over Puerto Rico. You ain't got to pay my hotel because I got family in Balboa, Mayagüez. What other part of I can't remember the other name. Dorado, Tabaja, Bayamon, all that. I can go anywhere. I don't need to, man. I got friends that live in Campo and Yauco, so Cabo Rojo, all that. I don't got to worry about nothing. The only thing, if they would have to, you know, somehow pay me really good to wrestle and pay my round trip or something, because man, a lot of them don't do that. They want you to pay your way going and coming and then pay you not even close to what you spent coming to Puerto Rico. So suponiendo if I wasted $300 round trip or $400, they're not going to pay close to half that. You know what I mean? And unless it's a big company and that's something like Carlos Colon or IWA or World Wrestling League where you negotiated with the promoter, you're only there 2 or 3 times a month and that's it. As opposed to being there 3 days a week or 4 days a week, however amount of times that World Wrestling League has their shows, you know. But it's just money, man. A lot of them are macetas, man. And that's all I can say. It's sad because that and the native thing. You have to be a native Puerto Rican, and that's not right. You know, I mean, you know, there's Puerto Ricans all over the world. All over. There's more Puerto Ricans, I think, in New York City than in Puerto Rico.
Mi gente de Puerto Rico,
you know, all the Puerto Ricans in New York City, and you try to fit them in Puerto Rico, that's not going to fit. Puerto Rico will be too small.
Yo lo único que quiero decirle a la gente de Puerto Rico es, no malinterpreten lo que estoy diciendo. Sí, es bueno que traigan luchadores de otros países, pero también hay luchadores que nacieron aquí, están en Estados Unidos, otros que nacieron en Estados Unidos, pero tienen familiares boricuas, que mira, muchas de estas personas muchas veces quieren volver a Puerto Rico para tener, aunque sea una lucha.
That's right.
Yes, y con el mismo amor que usted trae un mexicano, un dominicano, y usted le paga lo que sea, vuelvo y digo, no me está mal, usted puede traer el mexicano, el dominicano, peruano, el cubano, el que usted crea, pero por cada uno de ellos, mire, aquí yo he entrevistado varios boricuas que me han dicho que desde hace tiempo nadie se comunica con ellos y no le dicen, mira, quiero que venga, aunque sea un aniversario, quiero que venga, porque como dice el señor Panther, muchos de ellos, mira, tienen familia en Puerto Rico, usted no tiene que gastar en un hotel, ni en comida, ni nada, si acaso en el pasaje de ida y vuelta y ya, o sea, pero ¿por qué no los quieren traer? O sea, ¿cuál es el problema con traer un boricua que está loco por muchos lucharon en un pasado en Puerto Rico, no han vuelto más, Otros quieren, como el señor Panther, quiere tener su WrestleMania moment, su momento de WrestleMania luchando en Puerto Rico. O sea, vamos a darle una oportunidad, aunque sea una vez, un aniversario, algo especial. Mire, tráigalo para que se sienta orgulloso y pueda traer su bandera y decir, aquí estoy.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a couple of reasons. I say one of it's financial, and two, I mean, they would rather pay a Puerto Riqueño from, let's say, I don't know, Santurce or something like that, than to pay a Puerto Riqueño from, let's say, New York City or Orlando, Florida, lo que sea. You know what I mean? It's a matter of how much they want to pay, and they figure, well, okay, why am I going to hire that guy when I can get the same Puerto Rican over here? And it's a lot of stupid reasons, but I think those are the two main reasons for me. I mean, let me tell you something. World Wrestling Council, I had a friend of mine, I wrestled for them, and very good guy, awesome guy. And he told me who the booker was, which happens to be Carlito Colon's his son. I think his youngest, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I know his son for sure is the booker. So, you know, I just told him, I told the guy, give him my number, and that was it. Never called me. Maybe he never gave me his, I don't know, but Puerto Rico, I would definitely love to wrestle Puerto Rico one day, that's for sure. My brother got to wrestle Puerto Rico quite a bit, but Puerto Rico, to me, is just, I wish, oh man, if any of them are watching this, and they could contact me all day long. I live in Orlando, Florida now, so I know airfare will be a lot cheaper, but Puerto Rico, oh my God. It's like I said, Puerto Rico to me when I was growing up, wrestling in Puerto Rico was like almost like if you're watching wrestling from Japan. You know, with the fighting, the blood, the stakes, the barbed wire, the cages, the wrestlers that came through there, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher. Oh man, so many, Dutch Mantel. I mean, Jose Estrada, Pedro Morales.
Hércules Ayala.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love Hercules Ayala. He did a lot of wrestling in Canada. A lot of people don't know that. He wrestled for Stu Hart a long time ago. Long time ago. Hercules Ayala, great guy. But I liked his wrestling style. You know, he was good. If I had to pick, though, my favorites in Puerto Rico, believe it or not, was not even Carlos Colon. A lot of people get mad at me when I say that. But I got to give that to Miguelito Perez. I liked his style. You know, Miguelito Perez went with the times, and he's great in the ring. Huracan Castillo. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
All right, hold on a second here. I don't know. You just cut off on me or something.
No, I'm here.
All right, hold on. Don't go nowhere. Hold on. I got you.
Okay.
You got me? You can see me?
Yeah, no problem.
My man. All right, my man. So, you know, like guys like Huracan Castillo Jr., I don't see you, though. I'll tell you that. I don't see you. Oh, now I see you. Like Huracan Castillo Jr., I liked him a lot. Chiqui Star, like I told you, Chiqui Star. El Profe. Who else? Who else from Puerto Rico? I loved a lot of guys from Puerto Rico. Believe it or not, Abdullah the Butcher.
Fabio Vega?
Who? Oh, TNT. Oh, I love him. Oh, I loved him. Oh, my God. He's great. Oh, he's phenomenal. I love him. He is good. He is really good. I was following him when he was TNT. He was badass. I was looking at him like, oh, shoot. I'm trying to figure out what's the name of this wrestler from Puerto Rico I used to watch as a kid, too. You know, I already mentioned the greats like Bruiser Brody. The Invaders, I like the Invaders a little bit. They were okay, but it was mostly the other guys I mentioned because, like, for example, Pedro Morales, he's from Culebra.
Yeah.
He was the first Puerto Rican. And now, I'm not taking nothing away from Carlito Colon at all. He's a legend. He's a legend. There's no doubt about it. Carlito Colon is the Hulk Hogan of Puerto Rico. He is a legend. No doubt about it. But for me, watching, and this is going to sound crazy, guys like Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, Duda the Butcher, that's what got me hooked on watching wrestling in Puerto Rico, because every time I saw those guys, I knew somebody was going to get their heads busted wide open. I was just waiting. I was just waiting. And I like Carlito Colon and stuff like that, but no, man. What did it for me was the guys I just mentioned. And shoot, man, Puerto Rico.
If people want to reach you by the social media, how can they reach you?
Well, they can reach me by Panther Rodriguez on Facebook. I would probably send you the links because I really, you know what? I really haven't gotten into my social media the way I should. I believe it's Panther period Rodriguez lowercase letters .3. I'm not too sure, but I do know Panther Rodriguez on Facebook. They can get me on Instagram through you, Panther Rodriguez, of course, because it's connected to my Facebook, and it's really easy to get a hold of. Anybody can mail me anything at any given time. Answering messages all the time. Like, believe it or not, I told this one guy, Pedro Morales was the first Puerto Rican, like I was trying to say earlier, to ever have the major world heavyweight title, intercontinental, and tag team from a major company that was worldwide. The
first one who get inducted in the WWE.
It wasn't Pedro Morales. It was I think it was Andre the Giant.
No, but the first Puerto Rican.
Oh, that would be Johnny Rodz. It might be Johnny Rodz.
Because he was inducted deep. Pedro Morales was inducted in the WWE too.
But I believe, you know what? I'm going to look that up, but I believe Johnny Rodz got inducted before Pedro Morales.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, because Johnny Rodz got inducted around 96. Well, you know what? No, wait a minute. I don't know. But you know what? I'm going to look that up because now you got me thinking about it. And I'm thinking, and I'm not taking nothing away from Carlos Colon because the World Wrestling Council Universal title, legends have had that belt. And I got to tell you, man, listen, for a Puerto Rican, and when you're looking at this as a kid growing up and training, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this man, I mean, he's just a normal man like anybody else, of course. God bless his soul. Que Dios le cuide. To be held as a world heavyweight champion, to be a heavyweight champion. A lot of people don't realize, even for back then in 1970, 71, he held that belt for a little bit under 2 years, like a year and a half or something like that. That was the big thing for a Puerto Rican to hold that title back then. And a lot of people don't realize, you feel orgulloso, like, the pride is like, you know what? I want to do the same damn thing. But the only other Latino, I believe, that Vince McMahon Jr., because back then it was Vince Sr., but Vince McMahon Jr., the only Latino, I believe, to be world heavyweight champion, Eddie Guerrero.
Mm.
After that, no other Puerto Rican was world heavyweight champion. El hijo de Carlito Colon, el hijo de Carlito, the most he ever went was intercontinental. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
But never the heavyweight. Vince McMahon has never used a Puerto Rican heavyweight champion since. Think about that. Think about that. because, discúlpame.
Okay.
Think about this. Think about also the last Puerto Rican heavyweight champ was 1971. 71, 72, around that time. What the freak? But back then, of course, it was a different promoter. Mm-hmm. So I gotta also take that into consideration. But they were the one I can really see be heavyweight champion there would be Damian Priest, because he's Puerto Rican. Mm-hmm. He's a boricua. Damian Priest, the one that had that deal with Bad Bunny and all that. I can see him heavyweight champion. Whether or not WWE puts their faith in him to do so and carry that the way he should, I don't know. But Damian Priest would make a great heavyweight champion. And he's Puerto Rican, so it's great. But there hasn't been a Puerto Rican heavyweight champion since Pedro Morales. The only one was Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. I was told something. I wanted to ask you this question. Maybe you might know the answer. I'm over here interviewing you. But you ever heard of Karrion Kross from NXT? Karrion Kross.
Yeah.
They said he's Puerto Rican. Or he's got Puerto Rican in him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct.
Is that true?
What?
Eso es verdad. That he's got Puerto Rican blood in him.
Por lo menos él ha dicho eso.
I'm trying to figure out if it's his mama or his daddy or what.
De hecho, hay varios luchadores como Bailey that they are saying that they have some Latin roots.
No, Bailey is Mexicana. I already know that.
Yeah.
Yes, straight Mexican. Pura Mexicana. Well, not pura. Both her parents are from Mexico.
Yeah.
But Karrion Kross.
He said that he's Puerto Rican.
Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, how is this? I'm trying to figure out how, because I never knew that. That blew my... And, of course, you got Mercedes Martinez, who I happen to know. Great person, then. Happens to be Boricua también, and he's doing big things there. But I would love to see a Puerto Rican heavyweight champion in WWE. That would be amazing. It was just not so long ago, Kofi Kingston became heavyweight champion. Mm-hmm. And, you wouldn't think that a Moreno, they would, and I'm not racist. I love everybody. Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't think a Moreno, Vince McMahon Jr., would be like, you know what? That looks like a good heavyweight champion. So Kofi Kingston, of course, heavyweight champion. Now you got, Bobby Lashley. And I know why they're having Bobby Lashley heavyweight champion like that, because he is one badass heel. Mm-hmm. He is a one bad mother. And he's freaking huge. And believe it or not, Bobby Lashley could really fight. A lot of people forget he was in the Octagon too, not UFC. He was in Strike Force.
Yeah.
Part of Strike Force, and he was with them for a while. He had a pretty good record, man. He kicked a lot of ass. I tell them, listen, he don't got those cauliflower ears for nothing. He got those for a reason. So I would not mess with that man. And he also served time in the military. He was a military man.
Yeah.
So he's a veteran. Pero lo demás, I gotta say, WWE is doing so good. The only thing, a lot of people, what gets me mad, and I'm gonna say this on todo lucha libre here, is that you got a lot of wrestlers hablando mierda, talking so much junk about AEW, WWE, NWA, talking about Kenny Omega, this guy here, that guy there. And those same people, if AEW or NWA or Ring of Honor or whatever calls them, they run. They go, okay, let's do it. They'll run to wrestle for them. And I'm looking at them like, yo, what happened to all that? Yeah, that you talking? What happened? Because a lot of people feel that Kenny Omega, like, let me give you an example, Kenny Omega. They think that he's messing up the wrestling business, and him alone, Kenny Omega, with all the thousands and hundreds of wrestlers all over the world wrestling for so many major companies, from All Japan, New Japan, England, Mexico, United States, whatever. Kenny Omega alone is destroying the business. And I see so much bashing of AEW and everybody on the internet, and I'm thinking, damn. I'm thinking, listen, WWE, you bashing them, but they're worth a couple of billion for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They must be doing something right. I mean, you might not agree with some of the stuff they're doing, but they're still on air. What are you doing? ¿Qué tú estás haciendo? You know what I mean? And a lot of these guys talking all that junk, if WWE called them or AEW or Ring of Honor, they would wrestle for them in a minute. A lot of them so hypocrita, they're hypocrites. And that's, so a lot of these guys complaining about Kenny Omega, like I'm trying to say, they say he's like, como se dice, a video game wrestler. When you're playing the video games and wrestling and all the moves and toda la movida, and it's different. They say Kenny Omega is like that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, let me see. A lot of people pay to see him. So he must be doing something right, because in Japan, he was big. He was huge. He's a champion in AAA. He's a freaking champion over there. I mean, and that's owned by a Mexicano that, I'm sorry to tell you, you got to be able to wrestle your ass off to even be considered that high up there in AAA in Mexico. I'm going to tell you that right now. So if they got a gringo, an Americano, actually, no, he's Canadian. Excuse me. If they got a Canadian who they feel is that good, and let's give him a world title shot. Kenny Omega is, so a lot of people are hating him, and I'm thinking, is it his wrestling style? How can he destroy the business? He's making so much money for this company. How is he destroying it? What I think is that when people see the way he wrestles in the ring, they're thinking that's how wrestling's supposed to be. What I tell those same people, what I tell those same people is, when you watch in a match that Kenny Omega's on, there's a lot of other matches before him. All those matches are good. You like in every one of them. Not all of them are like Kenny Omega. So, to say that he's messing with the fans' minds, like telling the fans this is the way wrestling should be, is not true. I think a lot of them are hating it because he's making a lot of money doing those kinds of moves, and the fans love it. Son celoso, and jealousy in pro wrestling, and especially in Puerto Rico, because it happens in Puerto Rico. It's not good, man. Not good at all.
Bueno, mi gente, esto ha sido la entrevista del día con Panther Rodríguez. Búsquenlo en las redes sociales, escríbanle para más entrevistas, para llevarlo al país que ustedes crean para que vaya a luchar. Y thank you very much for your time, Panther.
¿Qué?
Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, man, de nada, man. Thank you. And
have a nice day.
Tú también.
Gracias.